You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It's your host, Brian Fullerton here, hanging out with you guys. And today, we have a great guest on the show for you today. We got none other than Austin Douglas. Austin, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Brian. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
how are you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Well, this is actually the second time you've been on the show, but really the third recording because we actually just lost power at my house. And we were like 2 minutes into the first episode, the first recording of this. And I lost power on everything, which was really weird. That's never happened to me. So we're just making it up and learning as we go. Amen. But
amen.
But how's everything going in your neck of the woods, brother?
Doing good, man. Business is already starting, considering that it's March. It's pretty crazy. I'm adapting to having a son who's now 10 weeks old, which is a miracle. And I'm so excited for you guys to have your child. You guys are going to love it.
I can't wait, man. We are about 4 months out, plus or minus, and we just did the anatomy scan, I think they call it. And so they're counting everything and measuring everything, and everything's looking pretty good, man. So far, so good. And we're just very, very thankful. Everybody's like, do you want a boy or do you want a girl? And you know the answer, healthy, right? And so
healthy.
We're excited. But so you have a baby. What did you have? Baby boy or baby girl? For anybody who hasn't caught up since your last show.
We have a baby boy, and he is Austin Jr.
Austin Jr.
So it's super exciting, man. I can't wait to watch him grow up. He's already grown like a weed. You know, I was telling you before we started this, he's already in 6 to 9 month clothing, and he's only 10 weeks old.
That's awesome, man. I thought you were messing with me like 6 to 9, and you're like, no, dude, he's literally grown 50% in like 6 weeks. And I'm like, can you imagine if
it's insane, dude? It's crazy how fast he's growing.
Can you imagine if we grew like that? Like, hey, last time you saw somebody 10 weeks ago, they grew by 100%. So it's like it's crazy watching little babies grow. I can only imagine, dude. You guys have so this is your first one, right?
This is the first child, the first of many, hopefully.
There you go, man. Well, exciting times for sure, and everybody's popping out babies, man, left and right. I don't know if that's everybody was like, "Oh, you guys had a little COVID baby." I'm like, "No, like we were planning to start a family anyway," but that's not necessarily the case for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, funny thing is, Brian, is we were too. So it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, you get to get locked down and stay at home. And it's like, well, hey, that kind of works out, right?
Well, that's what worked out for many people across the country. I'll tell you that. And then they're getting paid to not go to work. And so a lot of people are like looking left, looking right, man. There's only so many things you can do when you can't go out to eat in Michigan. You know what I'm saying? And anyway, so then we'll just leave it Disney for there, But so if you guys are listening in, and maybe you don't know Austin, he is the gentleman that runs a business called Ditch the Itch up here in where are you at again in Michigan? Mid-Michigan somewhere, right?
Yeah, I am in Goodrich, Michigan, which is about 45 minutes north of you.
45 minutes north of me. Okay, so it gets a little bit more rural out there. You guys, I think you said before we hit record, you have like 10 acres out there, right?
Yeah, I live on 10 acres. All my neighbors, I think the minimum ordinance out here is 5 acres per parcel. Wow. So there's a lot of room, a lot of space, and honestly, there's a lot of gunshots out here because everybody has the space to shoot.
That's right. Well, I was going to say I was a little flustered when we first started the last recording because I just got back from the gun range. It's Sunday Gun Day, right? And so gotta get the ammo in and use it and definitely keep your skill sharp. So and honest answer, I took Rob out, and he had a buddy. Took my cousin Jenna. She just got a new carry, and then she's got. Or my brother, then he has got his a new gun that just came in. So we're all itching to scratch the itch, right? So ditch the itch. We're looking to scratch the itch, hey man. So
hey, that's a good itch to scratch. I haven't done that in a while. I should go out to the range here soon too.
There you go. Well, we'll have to do like a Michigan meetup one day, man. I'm sure there's a lot of my two-way friends out there. But talking about ditching the itch or scratch the itch. So you have a whole background in. Well, why don't you give them your whole background? Because it's actually pretty expansive, and you cover a lot of different breadths of the green industry. So what's your background?
Okay. So for anybody that doesn't know, my background starts where I worked in a commercial nursery from my first job. And I've gone through other jobs since then, but I currently work at one of the largest commercial nurseries in Michigan. And we deal with the trees and shrubs We pot about, 6 to 8,000 trees every year and about 30,000 shrubs. So I get that perspective of actually producing nursery stock that gets sold to all the landscapers, and then the landscapers plant them, and then the lawn guys get the weed whack around them. And so I use that. I get to use that education to do what I do, which is eradicating poison ivy. And then also because with nursery stock, you have to monitor and control pests, so that way you can sell the cream of the crop as far as shrubs go. I get to kill mosquitoes with that education.
Yeah.
So I've got a background in this pretty much my whole working life.
Amen.
And I absolutely love it.
Well, we're going to dive a little bit more into your story. And then you had some fun things we were DMing back and forth on Instagram, some PSAs about folks going into the spring season. We did an episode this same time, maybe summer last year. So we'll try to leave that in the show notes if you guys want to hear Austin's startup story. But what we wanted to talk about on this show was mosquitoes, poison ivy control, and just really kind of help you guys heed some warnings out there and some, let's just be honest, not get poison ivy on you, know how to identify it a little bit. That's kind of Austin's background. So him and I were DMing back and forth about a week ago, and I said, dude, say no more. Let's get you back on the show. It's been a minute. I want you to help these guys with keeping it off of them, how to help customers out there that might have it, and what to do with it. So let's do this. Let's go to a quick commercial break. We're going to hear from Marty, Mr. Producer. We got to keep the lights on here, Austin, and somebody's got to pay for that ammo. Amen. So let's let's kick it over to Marty in the ATL, and then we're going to come right on back.
Did you hear that? What was that growling noise? Brian, is that your dog? I can't remember Fido's name, but I always love when Brian's dog shows up in the YouTube videos over there on the BLM channel, Brian's Lawn Maintenance, which I hope you have subscribed to. Now, I got to confess, early on, when I first started working for Brian, he would send me these texts and emails, always reminding me to promote BLM on the podcast. And I would scratch my head. And apparently, I'm a little slow because it honestly took me several weeks to figure out what he was talking about. By the way, Austin's first appearance on the show was episode number 105, just in case I forget to drop that in the description. And more of today's interview right after we hear from our sponsor.
Ballard Innovative Products is a full line of gear for the lawn and landscape professional. From mower gear, safety gear, trailer racks, equipment securement, equipment servicing tools, aerators, mower blades, X-blades, aluminum baggers, and much more to make you efficient, effective, safe, and profitable in the field. Check out Ballard-Inc.com to help dominate and elevate your business. Ballard Innovative Products. With over 20 years of selling accessories and 30 years in the business, we're sure that we've got something you can't live without. We appreciate the support and look forward to serving you this season. Stay safe and keep grinding, friends. And don't forget to use Brian's 10 to save 10% at Ballard-Inc.com.
Hey guys, Paul Jameson here, the author of Cut That Grass and Make That Cash. You're not listening to no raggedy podcast. You're listening to a great podcast. It's all about lawns, lessons, and life. It's the Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
All right, good deal, guys. Well, let's just jump right back into it. I was actually cracking myself up for a quick second. I'm like, man, paying for the ammo, they got to pay for the lights, they got to pay for the taxes. It's nothing's free, man. I know it's free to consume the podcast, but I'll tell you what, even just shooting a podcast, like all this stuff costs money. I'm looking around in my studio right now, and I'm like, man, how did we even get here? Like, it's literally crazy. But we always appreciate you guys supporting the Brian's 10 partners and the affiliates, from the Ballards to the Proven Locks to the IsoTunes and everybody in between, and then all the regular sponsors like Toro, Exmark, all those guys that, spend time to invest into the show to bring you guys this kind of content. So let's go back to you, Austin. You were DMing me back and forth and saying, hey, I want to spend a few minutes and maybe help these guys with poison ivy management this year. What were some helpful tips that you were alluding to back when we were texting on Instagram?
Well, really what I was trying to get at is right now for all the landscapers and lawn guys, it is probably the number one time we're going to run into poison ivy and not even know it because there's no leaves on it. So while you're out there weed whacking or cleaning out garden beds to install mulch, you don't even see this plant because there's no leaves. So now you need to know what to look for with this plant in particular when it doesn't have leaves. And it's pretty easy once you know what to look for. Essentially, poison ivy is a vine, okay? And even if it's growing in a garden bed, it's still a vine. So there's a central point at which the plant starts, and then it starts to vine out. And this vine looks very red to reddish orange. In certain soils and conditions, it might be like a lighter brown, but it still has that red color. So if you're digging around in a garden bed, you really want to pay attention to the vines you're pulling out. And I know if, say you're working in English ivy looks very different. It's got more of a whitish gray color to it. So really, when you're out there, pay attention to what you're pulling. And to save you, in case you are digging into it and you kind of realize like, hey, this is poison ivy, something to prevent you from getting poison ivy is if you're wearing work gloves, it's really simple to just put on disposable gloves underneath that. Because, you could pull off your work gloves and then you pull off your disposable gloves, throw them away, and now you have no risk of poison ivy.
That's a great tip.
Your hands are safe. It's all good. That's what I use in my job. I use disposable gloves all the time because the oil will absorb into leather gloves and then into other gloves. You want to get to like the Milwaukee gloves, those nylon material. It'll just absorb right through that.
Wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought the leather gloves would be safe, but not so much.
Not so much. I mean, over time, you figure if a guy was going and digging around a landscape bed nonstop and it was nothing but poison ivy because this lady was just like, oh, I need my landscape redone. You go over there, it's a total mess. You get this huge bid. You're so excited. And then all of a sudden you're covered in poison ivy because it absorbed through your leather gloves and you were just rolling around in it.
Right.
You know, so disposable gloves is huge. Another tip is that poison ivy oil will ride on water. So if you're going into an area to work and there's potentially poison ivy there, say you've located some of these vines in the garden, you really need to pay attention because if the area is wet, that oil will go anywhere. Okay. Same thing with sweat. So say all of a sudden you brush your face and you're sweating, all of a sudden now that oil's on your chest and torso and it's just, you're going to be miserable. So really pay attention to it and really be cautious. It's tough because we don't have pictures on this podcast, but, it's something that you really need to be aware of because right now you can't see it. You can't differentiate the leaves. You have to know the vine, which is why this education in plants is super essential for you guys.
Well, one thing I was going to say is if you guys don't know Austin, he's got a business, like he said. He runs his 9 to 5. It's probably more like 7 to 4, let's be honest, because I know he starts early because I see him on Instagram. And then he runs his contractor business, nights and weekends, and has a great thing going on with poison ivy control and then mosquito control. Well, if you guys aren't following him on Instagram, by the way, if you guys are listening to the show, most of our guests that are joining us, they have a great Instagram account, and we try to get people that can reciprocate in the community. So for Austin, what's your Instagram so people can go look at these photos? Because I know you post a lot about this stuff.
Yeah, so my Instagram, you could find me at Ditch the Itch MI. There's a lot of underscores in there, but I don't think you really need to worry about those. So Ditch the Itch MI is where you can find me.
There you go. Well, and then I know you post a lot of this stuff. So that way, if you guys want to just get some visuals, like Austin said, we don't have any, can't share photos yet somehow on a podcast, but it's really timely stuff, and we don't want to see you guys get splattered or have any of this stuff get on you, especially in the spring. That'd be a pretty miserable start to the season. So check out Austin's page on Instagram, give him a follow, support him, and then check out what he's talking about so you guys can identify it out there. And actually, this whole story goes full circle because when I had Austin on our show last summer, I was telling a story about I was working with a buddy and we were mulching a bed and pruning some shrubs, just regular, literally as normal of a day, subdivision as you can imagine, kind of house. We were pruning some shrubs, some burning bushes that were against the garage. There was 2 mulch beds, by the front door, little cookie cutter home, right? And we were about to mulch these front 2 spots. And before we do, we'd always pull the weeds. We'd always pull the little sapling, little guys out there, right? Pull the little weeds out and just kind of do some bed prep. Really, really basic. That brick pavers around, wasn't any bed redefining. And as I was going to this right side of the bed, I remember it like it was yesterday, the guy goes, "Stop." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Dude, that's all poison ivy." And I went, "What?" He goes, "Dude, that's all poison ivy, like little starter saplings. I don't know what you call them, And he's like, so I'm like, "Well, what do we do?" And so he did. He got a different pair of gloves out. I think he ditched them after he threw them out. He really was on it. And I had no idea because it kind of blended in. I thought it was just like little weeds. You know what I mean, Austin?
Oh yeah, they'll blend in. They look like little maple trees.
Yes.
There's a maple tree on a property, and they have say cobblestones for their landscape. Maples will pop up in those all the time.
Yes.
And poison ivy will blend right in, and maple is something that looks somewhat similar. So it's very easy to mistake it, and then also, get poison ivy because you don't know what it looks like.
Well, he had a little, I forget what tree was up front. I don't think it was a Japanese maple, but it was some little tree up front. And you had educated us on the last show. Maybe can you double back and just re-educate if these guys are new to the show or maybe first time listening to your episode? Where does poison ivy come from, stem from, and how does it spread? Because I think that's kind of a misconception out there.
Yeah. So poison ivy starts as a little baby plant. And then that plant likes to find a large tree. It likes to latch onto the tree, grow up the tree over the course of many years, branch out, and then produce hundreds, if not thousands of seeds. Okay. And so then this tree that's got all these seeds, poison ivy is unique in the sense that it holds its seeds all winter long. So the birds that stay here through the winter, they will look for poison ivy vines, eat the seeds, and then go fly and perch in another tree, drop the seed, and that's how it spreads.
Right.
It's very common if you are in say you're in a subdivision and most of the houses have a wood line. That wood line more than likely has poison ivy. So if you're mowing along that wood line, be very cautious. But because they border a wood line, more than likely a bird has flew and perched on their house or in a landscape tree and dropped a seed there. So it's very common to see that in that situation.
Yeah. One thing I was going to mention, and by the way, you were sharing that on your last episode last year, and that really helped me understand. I'm like, why is all this poison ivy in these landscape beds? And you were saying, well, that's from the birds. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And you're like, well, they eat the plants and then they, pass it and it gets into the beds. And I'm learning every day, just like you guys. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I never would have thought. I thought it was just the ground ivy, And also one little tip here. This is something I do personally. I don't know if it's best practices, but this is what I do. Anytime we're mowing next to a wood line, I always discharge into the wood line. Like I don't make my first rounded out pass, for the backyard of the property. I don't go all the way to the wood line and shoot all the thatch and thistle and all the nasty wood, ground cover, ivy. I don't know all those plants, guys. I'll be honest with you. Austin would, but I don't. So when I make my first pass in that backyard, we always stay one mower pass in, and then when I loop back, I always shoot the discharge into the wood line because I want to keep that crap pushed back as far as possible. And that way I'm not, like you said, sucking up all this poison ivy either and shooting it into the main part of the backyard. So I don't know if that helps you guys out. That's a little tip that I've learned along the way, just to keep that wood line pushed back. Do you guys do anything like that, Austin?
Well, I mean, I'm not a mower, but if I was to mow a yard, I would. But I'd also be very, very cautious about that outside perimeter that you cut, because along a wood line, the poison ivy could be, a foot to 3 feet tall along that wood line where you're not mowing, where the overgrowth starts. But because it's a vine, it'll vine out into the yard and push up these little tiny leaves.
Yeah.
And as you mow it, all of a sudden now you can have poison ivy oil on your blades. So when you're sharpening your blades, the best practices, and this goes, I guess, across the board with tools, the best way to get poison ivy oil off of your tools would be brake cleaner. If you can do it, if it's a metal product, I would use brake cleaner. And if you can't use that, then I would suggest a high content of rubbing alcohol, like 90%, 80%.
Oh.
And once you spray it down, rub it off with a rag, and then you should be good to go. But that's another common thing that, a lot of landscapers, lawn guys, they don't really think like, oh, hey, I might have mowed through poison ivy, and then they go to sharpen their blades, and all of a sudden they have poison ivy. They gave poison ivy to their wife, to their kid, and they're like, what the heck's going on?
Right.
And it came from the blades.
Well,
so
I'm a big proponent of wearing gloves all the time. And like you said, gloves aren't going to prevent everything, but I'll tell you what, if you're changing a lawnmower blade, definitely be wearing gloves no matter what. Sharpen them, not so much, because you don't want to get, a glove by an angle grinder or a blade grinder. But, anytime you're messing with anything under the deck, wear gloves. Even if you're scraping the deck out, wear gloves. That's my little PSA there. And one other thing you were DMing me on Instagram was talking about gators, net gators. I know literally a year ago, I would say probably 10% of you guys ever had worn a neck gaiter in your life, myself included, you know, unless you're working like super dusty conditions, or maybe in the summer, maybe, but maybe doing leaf cleanups in the fall. I know sometimes we would wear them, but it wasn't a thing. But now it's so funny. Like this year, myself, my guy Rob, and my other guy Dave, we're wearing neck gaiters all the time, just for dust control, and we're kind of more like conditioned to use them because of you know what. And so talk about that. Maybe some helpful preventative tips to keep it off you for the guy that's trimming grass. Maybe provide neck gaiters for those guys. You were saying that could be a helpful tip, Austin, with trimming for the guys that are on the line trimmer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've all been there. I mean, even though I'm not a mow guy, you know, I still have to trim and weed whack my yard. And if you have a neck gaiter on and you cover, you know, your front face and your neck and maybe even up to your ears, depending on how you like to roll,
yeah,
you know, that can really stop it, because when you're out there weed whacking, everybody knows this, you're going to get covered in all sorts of grass or whatever weed you're hitting. I mean, it's just going to be flung everywhere, even with a guard. And I know most guys don't really use the guards.
Right.
So having that protection to keep any sort of plant material off of your skin is really going to prevent you from getting poison ivy. And, you know, another tip, even beyond the neck gaiter, is if you're out there working and you're, you know, doing the labor of being down into a garden bed, I highly suggest that you're in pants and long sleeve shirts, even if it's 90 degrees. And I know a lot of guys aren't going to follow that, but you really should. When I'm working with poison ivy, I'm in long pants, long boots, long sleeves, neck gaiter. I mean, I'm trying to cover up every single piece of my body that I can without suffocating myself.
Yeah.
You know, because the trick is to keep the oil off of you. If the oil doesn't touch your skin, you're not going to get poison ivy.
So let me ask you that. Let me ask you that. Say, you know, somebody is trimming against a wood line, or they think they might have got poison ivy, or they come back and, you know, I don't know. What do they do with their clothes? Like how do you contain it? Or, well, it's poison ivy. It's probably hard to contain, right? But if somebody gets it on them or on their clothes, do they like not wash those clothes in the washer because it could spread to the washer and it's oil? Like what's some best practices and tips? Because you work in this stuff all day, and I'm sure you've dealt with all these different experiences.
Yes, I have. And I constantly get asked this stuff from my clients as well, because I hear it all the time. People, you know, they say, oh yeah, we went running through the woods and we got poison ivy and we just decided to throw away our clothes. And that's not necessary. So say you're out in the field, right? I highly suggest to always have a change of clothes on you anyway, because anything can happen, right? So that's always smart. Say you did get into it, quickly change your clothes, put them into a bag. Now, once you have that bag of clothes, you're like, oh, this is covered in poison ivy. Now what do I do? I would suggest to just wash it with your clothes as normal. Me personally, I wash my work clothes separately because I work with pesticides, and that's the best practice, is to wash it separate from my son's clothes, from my wife's clothes. So that way it can be completely clean and I'm not contaminating at all, or any potential of contaminating my family's clothing. But as far as poison ivy goes, you can wash that really with anything, and the detergent and the heat will actually pull off all the oil from the clothes and just completely get rid of it.
Okay.
Now, if you happen to be working around poison sumac, that logic does not apply. For whatever reason, okay, poison sumac and poison ivy, they have the same oil, which is urushiol. But the poison sumac is different. It'll actually penetrate through clothing, and I mean, it really doesn't matter. You're gonna get it if you end up with poison sumac.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. But with that, if you're messing with poison sumac, you should definitely discard those clothing and call it a loss.
Right. It's
that won't come out.
You don't need to bring that back home to the house. You know what I'm saying? It's
no.
That's crazy. It's funny. It is best practices in our house. Like I get to the front door, I get inside the garage, and it's like in the summer when we're like dead, sweaty, hot, nasty. Like it's the you know, strip to your skibbies and everything goes right to the wash. You know, that kind of a deal. Because we wash our clothes separate from like our main clothes or my wife's clothes for darn sure. You know, and you know, having a baby, I can only imagine. So I want to be as cautious as possible, and, well, you're a brand new parent, first baby. So same thing with me in a few months here. So you and I are going to be like the overly protective first baby parent, and, it's like,
yeah, well, I will say this, Brian, I bet you Liz is more protective than you are. Cause that's how I am. It's like, oh, he's fine. And she's like, no, he's cold, man. It's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Most likely. It's funny. Cause, first baby's coddled, second baby, which I'm middle. So I'm like, they're like, a little bit more easy. And then baby number 3, they're like, whatever happens, and, I'm sure some of the people that are listening that have kids are like, yeah, that's basically true. The first one, you get the little Sani wipes, and then the third one, you're like, hey man, if a little dirt don't hurt. Right. So it's, I don't know, maybe that's what my younger brother's the weirdest one of the group, but, that's funny. Well, no, I appreciate these helpful tips. I mean, a little quick tip that you guys can do for your guys. We were at Home Depot the other day, and actually, I sent Rob and Dave to Home Depot to get some new rakes. We're doing cleanups, right? And I said, hey, why don't you try to find some gators while you're there? I said, just like you guys, we get sent a bunch of swag and, shirts and hats and hoodies. But something that I didn't expect that would actually be pretty cool was all these neck gaiters. And so when they were in there the other day, most of ours are trashed and thrashed from, leaf cleanups last fall. And, they're just nasty, dirty, and, you can wash them, but they've been through the mill, But I told Rob, I said, if you see neck gaiters anywhere, dude, go buy 5 or 6, like throw them under the seat of the truck, like leave them in there. That way, if you guys want them for this spring, for, leaf cleanups, or for your guys that are trimming grass, try to have these on hand. I mean, they're $5 or $7 or whatever. They're kind of like a throwaway thing, after a couple months, they just get nasty or, stinky or sweaty or get little holes in them. But, try to make this available for your guys. I know, COVID or not, having them on hand is really helpful, and just having a couple extras in the door jamb of your car is useful, So I like when you were bringing that up idea, like, hey, make sure helpful tip for some of these guys this year is to have neck gaiters on if they're trimming against the wood line. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's great tip.
If I may, Brian, I mean, it's multi-purpose, right? So the neck gaiter is going to cover your neck from the sun, which is fantastic. You're not going to get sunburnt like you usually would without one. On top of that, it's going to absorb your sweat, which is going to cool you down throughout the day.
Yep.
And it offers protection from, poison ivy oils, horse flies, mosquitoes, ticks, all sorts of stuff. So, they really are nice, and they're not too much of a burden.
The ticks are the biggest part of my concern up here in Michigan. You live in the area and you get all the warnings that we do, like tick season's out of control, and it's like 10 times worse than it was the last year, which was 10 times worse than it was the year before, and I actually had we probably had 3 or 4 tick scares last year. Like I had one I had 2 on me at one point last year, like 2 different times. My guy Rob had one on him, and then I think somebody else had one on them, and we were like, holy crap, dude, we cut like regular subdivision lawns, like there's no tall grass or 10-inch tall wet grass ever, if that's in a subdivision, somebody's getting a fee or a fine, that's not the standard look around here in Metro Detroit, Michigan. But I'll tell you what, wearing pants to keep ticks off you, or neck gaiters, dude, super smart idea there, just for the sweating, the itching, all that kind of mess. And like you said, you get any sap on your neck, it's kind of game over, but what else?
And then as far as ticks go, Brian, there's a great product out there called Sawyer, Sawayer.
Okay.
It comes in a yellow bottle, and it's actually a permethrin product, which is an all organic insecticide that you spray on your clothing. Okay. And because I'm in the woods constantly, I know that I'm at risk of a high amount of ticks throughout the summer, more so than even you guys.
Sure.
And so I actually apply this to my pants, to my shirts. I haven't done it to my neck gaiter, but I might this year. It depends. I apply it to my socks, and I apply it to the outside of my boots and just like that top ring of the inner.
Yeah.
And what it does, it's a total repellent, and it'll actually kill a tick within, 2 minutes or something like that. It's a magical product for anyone that's worried about ticks.
Really?
It's pretty cheap. You can find it on Amazon, various places, but I highly recommend that product for anybody that has worry of ticks.
Well, last year after like the second tick scare, I think once on Rob, once on me. Rob found one in his his shin leg hairs, like just embedded. It didn't bite him, but it was like in his hairs. And he was like showering. He's like, "Dude, what the hell is that?" And so he texted me. He actually took a photo and then he texted me because that's what you do, right? I'm like, "Get that thing off you, dude." And last year I brushed my. I took off my hoodie because I did the strip thing, and Liz goes, and I go, "Look, I get it, a little dad bod, I get it." And she's like, no. I was just kidding. She goes, "No." She goes, there's a tick. And I went, "What?" So I like swiped my neck, and I think it was just crawling around, and I saw it fall on the floor. And then my dog Teddy is like about to eat it. I'm like, no. But the next day, Rob came in with a couple packs of some kind of tick killer repellent, and so we were spraying it all over ourselves, like doing everything after that, because it's funny, dude. Like it's just such a different world out there. Some of you guys listen and you're like, "Don't be a sissy," and then other of you guys like know people that got bit by ticks and have Lyme, and it's no joke. I was 4-wheeling with Stanley Dirt Monkey, and we were going to go through this. Like, dude, he's got like 100 acres over there somewhere, some property in his family, and he's like, I'm like, "Are there ticks out there?" He goes, I would imagine. And I go, "I don't want to get bit by a tick." And he goes, "If we don't come out with 20 ticks all over us, it wasn't a good ride." And I'm like, "What are you talking?" And so I was like, so actually Keith Kalfas was this too. So I look at Keith, Keith looks at me, and we're like, "Is this guy for real?" And Stanley like looks at me, and he's looking at us like, he called us a bunch of idiots, actually. That's a funny story. He goes, "You guys are a bunch of idiots." And we like look at each other, we go, "What's a idiot?" And he goes, "You guys don't even know what a idiot is?" He goes, "You guys are definitely idiots." And
Stan.
Yeah, dude, swear to God, like Stan is not a shtick at all. He is who you see, and we're in like little country, and he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "They're ticks, man." He goes, you just pull them off ya. And I'm like, "Well, won't the head detach?" And he just literally looks at me and he's like, "Man, you guys don't get out much." And I go, "I don't want to die, dude, from a tick." And so anyway, man, it
comes down to experience, right? So
yeah.
Stan grew up in the country, so ticks were more normal to him.
Yeah.
I grew up in the country, so they're more normal to me, and you kind of figure out how to deal with them. You guys grew up in the city, so they're not as likely, but like you said, you still get them on you even when you're mowing, residential lots in the city.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's just something to be aware about, and to, take the proper precautions, know what to do if you do find one embedded in you. Which if you don't know what to do, you should definitely save the tick, keep a little, thing of Ziploc bags, save the tick and send it in, because they can tell you if it has Lyme. Don't rely on what you see on the internet with, "Oh, it has a red ring around it, so you have Lyme disease." Don't do that.
Right.
Just save the tick, so that way you can send it in, have it actually processed by a lab. Because if you catch a tick with Lyme disease in it, where it could potentially give you it fast enough, it can be treated and prevented.
Yes.
So, take that stuff serious.
Yeah, we're not medical doctors, but I have heard all the above, and that is true, because that's where my dog went for it, and Liz goes, "No," and so we put it in a Ziploc bag or a jar, I forget what we did, and little bastard stayed alive forever, dude. Like I was like, Jesus, this thing is crazy. It looks like the craziest little things. If you guys never seen a tick up close, I don't like messing with them, and I get a little claustrophobic with them. I get freaked out, But so the Sawyer product, we'll have to check that out, or check out Amazon. I'm sure there's got some bestseller suggestions up there as well. But so we've covered the gamut, dude. We got poison ivy. We've I don't think we talked too much on mosquitoes this year, but we did hammer it really good last year. We had a podcast episode we did with maybe Marty, Mr. Producer, can I'll plug that in the show notes, and get your origin story, your startup story of how you got into business for yourself with doing what you're doing. Are you still working at the nursery full-time this year, or plans to go full-time, or where you at on that whole process?
Well, right now I'm still working there. My intention is to go full-time this year in my business this summer, and ideally, hopefully not go back to the nursery and go hang out in Mexico for the winter.
Yeah.
But
amen to that.
On that note, I got some inside scoop from the nursery, talking to some of the higher ups there. For anybody that's wondering how the season might be going, I know it's area, depends on what area you're in, But this nursery that I'm working at, their sales are up 238%.
Wow.
Which is amazing. And that was before they were shut down. So they're actually going year over year, actual numbers. They're up that much.
Wow.
So
that's awesome, man. That's a great sign. That's a great sign. That's
a great sign.
I think we're going to ride the wave for another year, maybe two, and we'll see. If they, by the way, if they keep printing money, I mean, Jesus, like they're talking a fourth round of stimulus money. I think I saw just the other day. I went, you got to be kidding me! Like, I'm not even going to get started on that one. But if that's the case, man, people are going to be spending it, and it is what it is. Hopefully, they spend it with you. So make sure you guys are out there, like ride the crest, man, ride the wave, and keep buying bullets in the meantime, right? So just having fun. But that's awesome, man. 238%. That's no joke. What anything else you want to leave these guys while we got you? If not, we'll button this thing up, man. But I appreciate you taking time to care about these guys and spread the good news. Talking about spreading things. Oil and Itchy and Ivy. But you're spreading the good news, man. So this has been good.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to leave these guys with the fact that these small little tips can really save you a lot of misery, and also your employees. We're all out there trying to, make money, provide for our families. We're not out there to try and go to the hospital and be on medication and things like that.
Right.
So, heed these with warnings, but, I wanted to make sure these guys stayed safe going into the season, so that way the season can be prosperous and healthy and a good one.
Absolutely, man. Well, we always appreciate when you guys are sharing nuggets out there and, trying to help the greater community. And where can these guys find you again? I know you plugged it earlier, but if they want to go down the rabbit hole, maybe they got questions about getting into mosquito control, mosquito management, poison ivy control, poison ivy management. Your business is Ditch the Itch, and this is your bread and butter and your niche business, which is booming the last couple of years. So where can these guys find you? And can they ever ask you questions if they got a few?
Yeah, absolutely. They can ask me questions. You can find me at Ditch the Itch MI on Instagram. And hopefully this year I'll be producing some YouTube content, which that'll be under Ditch the Itch. Right now I'm currently waiting for my Starlink satellite. Thank you, Elon Musk. So that way I could actually have internet to produce content for these guys. But yeah, that's where they can find me. I'm open to questions. I don't know if I can get to you right away because just like you, I'll be in the heat of the season, but I'll try and get to you as soon as I can.
Amen, bud. Well, we really appreciate that. It's funny, totally little tangent here, but when we talk about internet at my property, we got 3.35 or something, whatever it is, and all utilities are at the road. But I'm still wondering, are we gonna have AT&T? We're gonna have Comcast? Can I get Fios? Can I get fiber? All this stuff, right? And I told Liz. I said, well, Austin, and so we talk about your first name. I go, well, Austin has, 10 acres, but for him to trench a line, I think you told me, I don't know if this is off the record or not, but it was like $30,000 to trench the internet line, from your nearest, little green repeater box all the way over to your property, something like that. Was that what it was?
More like 15, but yeah, it was a ridiculous number. Okay. Especially because it's maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred yards. And when you do the math on it, it's like, why would I pay $15,000 for this? Well, because you don't have any other option.
Right.
And thank you to good old Elon. Now I have another option, and the cable company lost a customer for life.
Is that right? So you can use the Starlink system?
Well, I pre-ordered it. Okay. So I signed up for the beta. I pre-ordered it, and they said it'll be available in my area, middle 2021 to late 2021.
No kid. Wow.
Yeah. So that's something you might want to look into. I mean,
yeah,
it seems pretty reasonable, and he's already promising that it'll be by 300 megabytes download by the end of the year.
Is that right? So, wow, no kid.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I literally told my builder. I told Liz. I said I don't care what it costs. I'm drudging. I don't care if I got to dredge the Panama Canal to my house. I'm getting. I said I'll pay whatever it costs to get fiber at my house because I'm dead serious. I can't stand slow internet speeds. We have Comcast. We have 1,000 down, but we have 15 or 20 or 30 up. And for any of you guys that produce content, whether you upload a YouTube video or, you're uploading a podcast, you need up, not down. Right. And so if you're a consumer of content, you only care about the down. So every internet service is 1,000 down or 500 down or 100 megabytes down. But then you look at the up and it's 10, 15, 30. And I had the little tangent here, but I had the crappiest apartment in all of Wixom, Michigan, and they had AT&T fiber, and so it was $60 a month for 1,000, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me! I pay double that for 1,030, and I'm like, it's just ridiculous. Like these were the slummiest apartments ever. And a lot of guys listening to the show, they know where I'm talking about. Like we lived here for like 7 years. These stories are not made up. We're going to build a nice home. People go, oh, rich YouTuber guy. Like, listen, dude, we slummed it in the halfway house, and we're just paying off debt and saving our money for like the last 3 years we lived there. And, but I'm like, they have fiber internet. And then you're like, dude, it could be 15, 20 grand. I'm like, add that to the budget. That's a non-negotiable, man. So we'll see what happens. But dude, you got the Starlink. What do you have to do for the Starlink for any of these guys listening in? I've never even heard of like how it all works. So what do you got to like buy a repeater box or something or?
No. Oh, so you just go to starlink.com and then you type in your address, which would be your service address where you intend to use the internet. And then it'll say it'll be available at such and such a date. Right now they're taking, I think, a $99 deposit. You need to purchase the actual satellite dish, the router, and then a couple cables, which is like $495. So just a quick $100 deposit. When it's your turn in the queue, they'll actually cash out the rest and send you what you need.
No way. And what do you get, like a certain amount of hours per day that it's over, or is it like 24 hours a day?
Right now, there's no limit. So like background on internet, right? So I have satellite internet right now that's absolute trash.
Sure.
Okay. You want to talk about speeds, Brian? On a good day, I got 25 download and like 1.6 upload.
Okay.
Just garbage. So
that is bad.
So this right here, right now, there's no data cap. So people are getting anywhere from 50 meg download to 170 download. And I think it's pretty consistent with like a 20 to 30 upload. But yeah, you just go on the website, you type in your address and pay the deposit and get on the list.
That's crazy, bro. I'll have to check that out. I haven't even thought about it, haven't even looked into it, but we were somewhere, maybe in Florida, and we saw the Starlink chain go by, and I was like, what is that? I've never even seen that. It was like 20 little white dots or something like that. It was, my younger brother pointed it out. I go, he's like, that's the Elon Musk thing. I go, he's like, that's like one of the arrays or whatever. And I'm like, what? Dude, it's like some Star Trek stuff over here, isn't it? You know, like, I don't know. I just find
he's going to pretty much cover the entire world in satellites. He's already figured out with NASA that he's going to make these satellites communicate and just like separate like the Red Sea in case NASA wants to launch something.
Wow.
I mean, dude's a genius.
That's crazy, bro. That's literally crazy. Well, here's my biggest bottleneck is every time we create content for you guys, and we create a lot of content. I know I sound fussy, like first world problems here, but you know, when I upload a YouTube video in 4K, they're between 5 and 10 gigs. You know, and the 15, 18, 20-minute videos are 11, 12 gigs. So it still takes an hour and a half to 2 hours to upload, and good old YouTube, which is really the internet. And so I bought 4K cameras to shoot nicer quality content for you guys. I'm editing on an iMac because I bought myself a nice gift like 18 months ago. Nicest computer I've ever owned. It was like a couple grand. And now our bottleneck is the internet, because like we have these huge files now. And same thing with the podcast. Takes a couple minutes to upload it to Marty, Mr. Producer, who I think he's also in the mountains of Atlanta or Carolina or wherever he's at. He's got the sticks, wireless internet, satellite internet too. So he's always like, hey, send me the file in MP3, not .wav, because it's like a third of the size file, But yeah, so here we got you guys covered from poison ivy to mosquitoes to ticks, and then we'll also help you with your internet. That's what we do here. So any which way, but let's finish it up right here, man. Any closing remarks or tips or suggestions you want to give these guys? But we always appreciate when folks take time to be on the show, and we're actually doing this Sunday afternoon, man. So thanks for taking some family time away and joining it with these guys and sharing some helpful content out there.
Yeah, closing remarks. Find mentors, listen to your mentors, ask them questions, and go out there and crush it.
Amen to that. I like it. Well, this guy is a man of few words, but when he talks, people listen. We got E.F. Hutton on the line. So, all right, guys, if you're over 35, you know who that is. If you're not, you're like, you have to Google that later. But all right, guys. Well, we got Austin from Ditch the Itch, who is a brand new father. Maybe if you guys want, it's a community, guys. If you listen in, we're all family here, and maybe shoot him a DM, say, hey, congrats on the baby. And I'm sure he's got some cute photos of the little dude up there, and of course, Poison Ivy as well. And so we'll see if his feed is more baby or more poison ivy this year, right, Austin? So, but in all seriousness, congrats to you and your wife. What's your wife's name again? I'm sorry.
Her name is Noemi.
Noemi, and she is Hispanic, right, background or Mexican background? You're saying?
Yep, she was born and raised in Mexico with 5 brothers and sisters, and big old family, awesome family. They're a blast. Honestly, I love them.
Well, that goes full circle to you guys were like, why is Austin going to go to Mexico for the winter? Because her whole side is all down there, you know? And so, and I don't blame you, man. Everything from basically Florida South is pretty nice and warm in the winter compared to Michigan weather. Amen. So if you're not plowing snow, you have no excuse to stay up here, in my opinion. But, all right, guys. Well, Austin with Ditch the Itch, we super appreciate the time. Treat your guys' safety and security serious this year, guys. Get some neck gaiters, wear pants, follow some of Austin's suggestions for best practices to keep this poison ivy and all this other mess off you. We want you guys to be safe and healthy out there, and then in turn be able to go as hard as you can to make as much money as you can and take care of your guys' families. So follow him along on Instagram. Maybe tag or repost this if you guys want, and also don't forget to leave those ratings and reviews. We saw a bunch come in over the last week, and I know Marty, Mr. Producer, is going to get back to reading a bunch of those as they come in. So if you guys want to hear a review that you guys leave read live on the air, maybe consider leaving one of those reviews, and maybe Marty, Mr. Producer, might read yours next. So, guys, that's what we got for you today on today's show. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to catch up with you guys here on the next one.
Here's Brian Fullerton talking about one of the benefits of purchasing the postcard designs from L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com.
Hey, I don't want you guys to have to spend 10 hours trying to get these things designed and all that back and forth, especially if it is during the busy season.
Your time is valuable, and so is your money.
If you buy 2,500, you get 500 extra cards for free. If you buy 5,000, you get an extra 1,000 for free. So that's some of Brian's discounted rates that you're getting.
That's Samantha Heald from Postcard Mania, who is Brian's preferred printer for these proven marketing pieces.
Buy the design from L'Entrepreneur Academy. Email up Samantha and her team. We have a direct link and contact info to reach out to them. And if you guys take that design, that PDF art file, Samantha and her team will make minor edits for
free. Yep, for free. We're doing it for free.
So if you want more customers and discounted pricing on printing, then the proven postcard designs and templates at L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com is the way to go.
Because of the fact that we print all of our own stuff in-house, there are certain tiers and quantities for us that it make more sense where you guys are getting better price breaks.
Catch Brian's full interview with Samantha on episode 173 and crush your marketing efforts with 11 new postcard designs to go along with the 4 seasonal card designs from last year. L'EntrepreneurAcademy.com. Ballard Innovative Products is a full line of gear for the lawn and landscape professional. From mower gear, safety gear, trailer racks, equipment securement, equipment servicing tools, aerators, mower blades, X-blades, aluminum baggers, and much more to make you efficient, effective, safe, and profitable in the field. Check out Ballard-Inc.com to help dominate and elevate your business. Ballard Innovative Products. With over 20 years of selling accessories and 30 years in the business, we're sure that we've got something you can't live without. We appreciate the support and look forward to serving you this season. Stay safe and keep grinding, friends. And don't forget to use Brian's 10 to save 10% at Ballard-Inc.com.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.